I was snapping, I was vibing, and then you muted me so that the audience wouldn't hear my beautiful snaps.
Oh, hello, and it's Friday. Wonderful people.
Yes, it is. And welcome to episode 12. Wow, it's been 12 weeks. Time flies. For no particular reason, with my amazing co-host Yanko Yankov, a hypnotist, and myself, Kerri Lewis, addiction, mental health speaker, coach, accountability, and hoping to inspire. So thank you so much for joining the show, y'all.
And overall, wonderful human. You forgot to add. There you
Well,
go.
I feel like my energy kind of exudes that. You know what I mean? I'm going to do one of two things. You're either going to be attracted to it or I'm going to repel you. And either way, it's perfect. So there you go. So right before you were asking me how my birthday was, and I was like, meh, it was kind of good. And then I got caught in ego, and I'm still navigating ego for all of you guys out there. And what I mean by that is feeling a little sorry for myself that I'm not where I perceive myself to needing to be. And Yanko, and so I said, I'm still in the same place 4 years later. And he's like, well, you're never in the same place. You're always changing. And so I said, well, let's
That's
talk
right.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People like I got those moments myself, and I have to remind myself a lot of the times that um, things are changing, even inside our bodies. Uh, cells are forming, other things are happening, and in and outside, if you're kind of doing the same thing over and over every day, you feel kind of like maybe you're stuck, but you're not stuck, because like you're always moving up, and then you kind of like integrate whatever you've done, and then you move up again, and then you have a period of integration when you might feel like you're stuck, but you're never stuck.
Yeah.
And so that's how I remind myself that, like, you get that feeling, but it's not that.
It's an illusion. Well, it's interesting you say that because, you know, I'm constantly, and I mean throughout the day, in so many different ways, being reminded like things are exactly the way they need supposed to be. But when you seek that external,
Validation,
yeah,
reflection, yeah,
clarity,
yeah.
it can be really, really hard. You know what I
Right.
mean? To stay the course. And it's so funny because we've had Gail on the show before, and I reached out to her, and she's like, you know where to find me, and I'm like, it's just ego. I know it's just ego. I just have to remember that and just keep it moving and be open to whatever is coming my way.
But even she said it, like, yeah, I used to go with all those titles and everything, and now I'm just human like everybody else. Like, I don't need different type of titles, like a speaker, a motivator, author, and all this other stuff. But so
Well, it's so interesting. I don't either, right? And yet it's very hard for the like people that I am surrounded with
right.
just be like, I'm Kerri. And even I'm not Kerri. I'm just love. And then they're like, what are you talking about? So how can you help me, love? And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I need to be a little bit more clear in that. I'm going to help you examine your belief systems, habits, and all the things, and then
Right.
hold you accountable to take action. And I think that is so incredibly important to continue to remind people is um even if we don't need titles, we do perform a certain function in somebody's journey to help them hopefully move past
Well,
where they're at.
not even somebody's journey. I think we exist because we have to exist. We're playing some kind of role. So even if you're not like playing the role you wish to play, I mean, you go to different places, you communicate with strangers, you communicate with other people, restaurants, hostess, and things go on. And that made me think of like sometimes I do that when I go to different restaurants, and when they say, "Can we have a name for the order?" Say Bob, or maybe John. Some days David. Um, in whatever, like just different character, I kind of feel like, what do I feel like today? Do I feel like David? Yeah, today I feel like David, so I'll be David today. And a week ago or so, we went to Panera Bread with a friend of mine to have a lunch and catch up. And I used their system for the online thing to put the order on, and they have the same thing, name for the order. So I type in this hypnotist guy. So when they were ready, we're sitting in the table, and so they yell out at the side, "This hypnotist guy, lunch for two or whatever." So
Funny
that
because
was so fun, though. That was so
when I
fun.
was young, right, young and wise, I still do it. I would write Nunya as my
Oh,
name. And
okay.
Nunya meaning none of your business. And
Oh,
so
okay.
like I would wear that as my name tag when I was like 14 working in like restaurants or whatever. So I always think about that. But yeah, I mean, you're right. We play different role. And it's so funny because I'm generally speaking, a very positive person, right? And I was talking to Nana about this yesterday, right? So I was talking to him about the environment in which I kind of exist in sometimes, and how I was really kind of struggling to stay positive. And I found myself going into this spin of, oh my God, am I like fake because I say I'm really, really positive, but right now I'm not really positive? So does that make me um like this?
Like imposter,
Yeah,
like
I
yeah, I
totally
know.
went
I
on
know
the
that. I know
but
that feeling.
you know what? And I think this is why I have verbal diarrhea of the mouth. And what I mean by that is like even on my birthday, I went on live and I shared my truth with people. And I am so brutally truthful about my experience with people because of that imposter syndrome, like fear. Sometimes I don't want people to think that I think I have it all together all the time. Yeah, I'm generally happy and I look at, the glass half full and I believe that I make an impact. And still, there are times when I'm like, why is this happening to me? Why can't I get out of my own way? What is it that I can't figure out? Blah blah blah. And so I just I share it all with people. And that kind of helps me get out of my head and out of that story and just back into the present moment.
You know what brings me back really good, really fast? I ask myself, who wants to know, or who wants that? Like,
Yeah.
and that comes up. Like, it's like right up. It's like, oh, okay, that comes from ego. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay, good pat in the back. Good
Yep.
job. You
It's
know.
so funny. Yeah. But it's true that like so but here's the thing. We exist we exist in a world predominantly controlled by ego right now, right? And so it is easy to fall into those old patterns of behavior and belief systems because that's what we're surrounded by oftentimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always remind myself, so basically I'm in fear, and there's one thing that I really have this uh profound, like, I don't know, like I will bust through fear. Like I just won't allow fear to control me. It's this thing. I'm like, nope. And that's why my tattoo is feel the fear and do it anyway, right on my arm, because I want that visual reminder that okay, I may be existing in fear, but I'm not going to let fear define my actions and how I show up in this world. And I generally don't.
I think when you look at it and you sit and marinate in the feeling of whatever you had, and you kind of like, uh, I don't know, sometimes when I have that like fear feeling, I kind of sit and see where it comes from. And is it, first of all, is it really mine? Because like you can be in a situation when you're feeling somebody else's fear for somebody else's anxiety, or like depends on location and other things. And so once you get it, you kind of get a feel for it, and then you kind of sit and you see what does he want, like where's it coming from, like is it an old program, or what is it. You
Yeah.
make friends with it, and it goes away. Kind of like anything else in life. When you're afraid of something, and once you like say, "All right, you're not gonna get to let you control me or whatever. Let's see where this goes." And even if it's somebody that maybe you're fearful of or a situation, um, and once you kind of make the first step and you recognize it, then it doesn't look like it's that fearful at all. It might be a story that we're telling ourselves based on previous experiences or something else. And so most of the times it just goes away.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. So I was talking to this amazing energy healer who we're definitely going to have on the show, Drew. His username is Drew Mack. I don't actually know his real last name, but anyway, maybe that's it. I don't know because, um, but something that I find in the clients I work with who struggle with addiction, a lot of them are highly intuitive beings. And to your point, they don't know how to distinguish between their own anxiety, fear, energy, and others. And so it feels like this big hodgepodge of emotional ugh,
Right. Yeah.
and that's why they numb out. And I think that, now that, I've gone through and done so much of this work myself, I was always highly intuitive, highly, and I can feel people's energy. And so because and I would say it too. Like I as a very little girl, I would call people out on, oh, what's going on? But people would lie, right? Because we're
Right.
not taught to honor and own our emotions. It's suck it up or pretend that it's not there. And so then I led myself to believe I was crazy because here I was this little girl and all these adults were telling me there's nothing wrong. I'm making it up. And so I'm absorbing all this energy, but being made to believe that it's not true. And so it felt too hard. And I think that's probably why I fell into addiction in the first place. Because who wants to have all that energy and not really know where it's coming from?
Well, that brings something else in mind for me, because like I grew up in Bulgaria, and then half my life I was living there, and then the other half I continued living here. And when I moved in here, everything, all the people were like feeling, because I'll use the same feeling that I had before. I'll get to know somebody, and right out the bat, I'll know like if they're trying to do something, sneaky or whatever. And in here, everything at the beginning looked kind of odd to me, because everyone was putting this mask, like, hey, always smile, almost with the fake smile. It's like, hey, how are you? But do you really want to know how I am, or all this other stuff? So it was kind of weird for me at the beginning to like understand. And then maybe along the lines, I forgot how to do that anymore, because you just kind of blend in. And now that I'm going back to getting in touch with those things, or feelings, and sensing other people out, it just comes right up. Like
Yeah.
I even had this conversation the other day with a friend. I said, good show you guys put up. It was a kind of a good show, but um, it wasn't real. It was just funny. I was kind of laughing, because it's like,
What do you mean?
bravo, good
Hey,
good job, good job of being genuine fake.
well, what's so funny is like I'm definitely a New England girl, right? And I always say I'm a masshole. And people like, what do you mean? And don't get me wrong, now I hate to generalize, but like you have that phrase southern hospitality, right? And every experience, every time I've been in the south, I've experienced this southern hospitality where it's like, hey, beautiful, but it's not genuine. And I'm like, I would rather be in the East where people will flip you off, but at least you know that's
At
genuine.
least they're honest. Yeah, at least that's how they feel about it. Yeah, I know.
I'm like, I appreciate you for keeping it real. Like that to me is more hospitable because at least you're keeping
Right,
it totally 100
right,
about where you're
exactly.
at rather than a superficial, and again, like as I continue to do the work and discover and all of this, I just, to your point, I do oftentimes find myself amused by the persona that I pick up on. But another part of that, right? So I come from, trauma, and that where you were talking about asking yourself where fear comes from. I also can catch myself in fear when I find that there's like um certain people in that persona because I feel unsafe, and then I have to catch myself in that too because that is old patterning and conditioning.
Totally. Yeah. So I don't know. Usually, it's something that hasn't been fully integrated, at least to my experience when I'm doing this kind of stuff. To be totally honest with you, I don't get to be fearful anymore very often. I still
Nice.
get like sometimes I get that. Um, but it's not like I used to be. I don't know. And now because I'm mostly observe of what's going on
Yeah.
instead of coming in from reacting. You just come up with this kind of curiosity of like, let's see where this goes. And then if it starts getting amusing, then I'll get amused by it, and that'll just make me laugh or something. So uh, I don't know. It's kind of a natural thing that it happens, I guess. But the
Hey,
other day, yeah, the
Gail,
other day,
real quick, did you see Gail's comment? If
no,
you're around, you should join the conversation. We're happy to bring you up on stage. You always have words of wisdom to impart on our audience and myself. It's funny. I was sending a Gail a video earlier today. I'm like, thank you so much because I certainly attract to me the people that I need to remind me that that fear is an illusion in the first place. You being another person. I know you're here, but you can go on video.
that's
I don't know.
right.
Do you know how to get her on video? I
No,
mean,
I can.
let's do this thing.
Let's
That's
do
what
this thing. All
I'm
right.
saying.
Let me share the link with you, and we'll send you a invite if I remember how to do
So
that.
while you send that to Gail, I really want, I'm gonna, and maybe Gail can elaborate on this because yeah, you've said that you don't feel fear. I've yet to get to that place. Like I recognize it's not true. I recognize that it's just a story, but it doesn't stop me from getting like that tightness in my chest and that like crippling um stagnation where I feel like I can't move forward for a minute. And then to your point, like I don't know that I make friends with it, but I recognize that it's BS and I move through it, but I definitely feel fear. So I'm curious about that. I would like to hear your perspective, Yanko, and then obviously Gail as well.
Yeah, Gail, I just sent you the connect on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. So check it out. Click on it and get in, and we'll get you in. Um, and how I do this
Mm.
is just the other day I was going to tell you that I'm just a fear comes over and I sit and I just kind of talk to it. Like I go within and I say, all right, so what do you want? Like, why are you here? Like, okay, because that's my job, or whatever I get a feeling of. Like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. What do you need to feel better? Well, that makes me funny. I feel better this way. All right, but what will make you even more like excited or whatever? And it's kind of like shifting the inner, like you're playing with your inner child. You talk to it. You can talk to it and see what it wants.
Yeah,
And
see, I do that. So
you change it. You get it to, change a little bit.
you do feel fear though, then.
Yes, it's
Okay.
very
I thought you were saying that
not
you
very
don't
often
feel
though.
fear.
Not very
And I'm
often.
like,
Like, yeah, in situations when before I feel fear, and here's Gail, we're gonna bring her in real quick.
yeah.
Welcome, welcome.
Princess! I love it.
Hola, hola.
¿Qué pasa?
All
I love
right.
that you're talking about fear.
Yeah.
Serendipity, yesterday I was giving a workshop, by the way, to a bunch of amazing coaches, and they had breakthroughs like no tomorrow. But we talked about these emotions.
Yep.
And one of the things we need to be careful of is what order are we breaking through? So, fear, if you break through anger first, then it's anger, sadness, fear, shame, and guilt. And here's
Yep.
why. If you do fear first, you don't want an angry, fearless person running around the room.
Facts.
Right? Fact. Fact. So seriously, so there is a natural order for releasing these things. And some of us, what was very interesting with these people who are coaches, is that what they were defining as anger or frustration, in some cases, was depression, right? When we went under it. So we label something with like shame. Well, shame is actually the root to a lot of things. So that's wrong, right?
It is the root of like,
Here to your point, I was just gonna bring that because a lot of people are not even aware of their emotions, so they
yeah,
have different labels for them, and I was one of them. Because
Right.
like as a man, I'm not like raised to feel a lot of my emotion, and usually that always comes in mind as like, if you're in a situation when you feel like tearful or whatever, and kind of people look you down and say, "Men don't cry," just keep it up, like just you know, be a stronger man. You know
stupid
what I mean?
narrative. I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't even get it.
It's so
So
yeah.
crazy that it's
I,
true.
I
I
know.
know. So like a lot of the people are not even aware of that. And a lot of the people like, especially with people when I work with, and I say, all right, let's see how you feel about it, and I have them complete whatever they have issues with, and they'll say, I'll say, all right, whatever first thing that comes to mind, this thing really makes me feel like, and they come up instead of a feeling, they come up with something else, or they'll have like a totally different feeling about it, because
Right.
that's how they label things, and they're not really like aware of their emotions. So
It's
and
like Don
still
Quixote chasing, right, the wrong thing. He's chasing a
right,
windmill thinking he's
right,
fighting a dragon.
yeah,
Um, one of the latest words for me that going after the wrong thing is unworthy. People feeling
Mm,
imposter syndrome.
we were just
yeah.
talking about that.
See,
That's
and see, we manifested Gail.
Yeah.
right. Let's get to it. That's shame,
Well,
right?
it's interesting. So I will just say what I was saying to him. I am really always happy, but this week I have struggled, right? So I turned 44. The day after my birthday is my oldest sister's birthday, who passed away. Generally speaking, I just celebrate her. But this year I've struggled, right? And I'm like, wow, am I like an imposter to my community? Because like this week I'm struggling. So that's why, and I know you saw it, I put out a video because the way I combat that feeling is to speak it out. That's just how I no longer spin in a story. That's been my go-to for as long as I've been. I don't know that yeah, I suppose maybe it is shame. You know what I mean? That I haven't like been more successful than
Well,
I should.
there is no end, honey.
I know, I know.
It's a
I
journey,
know. I
right?
know.
So I wish I didn't go through the dark side repeatedly, but we have tools and we get better at knowing how to manage it for ourselves. And
Yeah.
manage is the wrong word. It's to face it, embrace it, and
And move
dissolve
through it.
it,
Yeah.
right? Move
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's why it was helpful for Yanko for you to clarify, because when you say you don't feel fear anymore, I'm like, like I have a heart, because I'm like, I do the damn work.
Uh,
And
uh,
when I hear anybody say that, I'm like, I mean, maybe an enlightened being, I don't know. Did Jesus? No, even Jesus, it was said that he felt fear the night before he was crucified. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there, so that's just like, theory.
That's your thing.
But I don't know. But it is helpful to continuously be reminded that we are having a human experience. And I think I was saying this to Drew, who I actually introduced both of you to, because both of you will just like, it's like a love
I love fest.
Yeah. I was saying that I don't know what I was saying. I just lost everything I was thinking.
no, I'm sure I'm sure I'll come back to you, because usually that's happened to me. Like sometimes I start going in a tangent, you have the thought coming in, and then you lose the channel or whatever you want to call it, and then I say, all right, I'll come back to me, and then I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going, and you reconnect.
Yeah, I'll get there. But anyway, no, I love that. And so, yeah, I suppose you're right. I suppose shame is still, prevalent in my experience if I'm worried about, you know, being perceived as an imposter.
You know, this is also very interesting. First of all, the moon is probably wreaking havoc with you right now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so just saying, be aware of the moon phases, because I know I feel it. And like last week, I was in. I call. It was like I didn't know what was up and what was down. I had so much going on. I didn't even know how to juggle what I had to juggle, and so overwhelmed, I guess,
Yeah.
is the word. And I'm like, I just like every day, just do something. Every day, just do something. Just go through it, and every day, just do something, right? And I'm redefining myself because of the journey I just went through, and
Yeah.
my offering and my clients have changed. And I'm like, what is that? Who are they? Right? And then starting Tuesday, I was like, oh. And then Wednesday, and Thursday, holy crap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So today I'm like, all right, so that means my business name needs to change because it doesn't resonate. I mean, kind of, but not really with who I'm here to service now.
Yeah.
And so what does all that mean? So I've got like a bunch of notes that I'm writing, and I'm throwing all this stuff on a business plan. And do I follow a business plan? Heck no. But when I throw it up there, I organize my thoughts. I get it out of my head and onto paper.
Yep.
Right? And then I can move forward. But the point being is sometimes the chaos and the feelings is because you're ready to come out to something else.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so that's why when you don't lean into it, you're missing that opportunity.
I know. And this is all the stuff I know. And it's so funny. Like I get it. And then I'm like, ugh. Like, because sometimes who wants to go through the ugh? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just going to keep it real. There's a reason for anybody out there. And please, if you have any questions or thoughts or whatever, share. But there's a reason we all have coaches, because there are times when none of us want to, like, we do it because we know it's necessary. We've moved through enough of it to recognize that there's valuable nuggets that we'll walk away with, but it doesn't mean it feels good in the process. It feels like yucky.
Right. And we need to feel the feels. So, you may know, I think you do know that yesterday my sweet little baby boy cat passed away.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And so here's a couple of things. It was actually probably more Wednesday night than Thursday. Thursday, I had someone planned to come to put him down. And I had all of these, who am I to judge when he goes, right? What if I'm taking some days from him? Well, Wednesday, he jumped up on the bed. How he did that, I don't know. And then jumped off and hurt himself. And he literally dragged himself around the house Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so I slept on the floor with him until he started to drag himself away from me. And I knew that was it.
Yep.
Right. I knew that was it. And so I felt like I let him be here as long as he was meant to be here. And I didn't choose his day.
Yeah.
right? And so I felt good about that. But I miss him. You know, he goes to the bathroom with me. Like his litter box is next to the toilet. He's a social pooper, right? So I'm looking like, where? Oh yeah, there's no litter box. I took that out, right? And so it's
Yeah.
just adjusting to that. So how, you know, what was the point of all of this? So the point being, I'm with a community of coaches, right? I hang out every day with this community, and the first thing they said was, do we want to stop this meeting and do you need our support? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I cried my eyes out that night knowing that it was his last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But thank you. There in case I needed them on the spot.
But that's how I feel about you, Yanko, and a certain couple of people too, for sure. And I think that's why we build community. I said this in my live on my birthday. We heal in community and connection. And I think that's why intuitively I've always had verbal diarrhea of the mouth. It has gotten me in heaps of trouble in a world where to speak your truth is not fostered and embraced. But there's always been that knowing about me that I needed to speak my truth, despite the fact that most people were resistant to what I was saying. And in fact, within my family, they still to this day call me crazy. But that's okay, because like it makes me feel like I'm not making up a story in my head, you know?
Right. Right. And, you know, so I'm also a person I'm a soul realignment practitioner. And so I study my souls.
Yeah,
And mine is truth. That is who and what I am.
me
Right.
too.
So imagine, right, not being able to lie, right? If I can find a way to present something that supports corporate that is not a lie, I will find it. But otherwise, that's why I was not really good. I was fantastic manager, one of the best. But I up the ladder when I was where it's time for BS, didn't work. I'm not going to BS you. I'm going to tell you, you know, your process sucks and it needs to be improved.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
your mind will come up with all kinds of ways to not lie or not tell the truth. If you really want to be mindful
Creative.
about it, it'll be creative. You're just not going to tell the whole truth. It's just going to be some version of the truth.
You know, the thing is
So
I
like,
I feel that when people are doing that, and I'm sure you guys do too.
Because
no, but
they're wrapping it, and you know that
try
this
it though. Try it. If you observe yourself and resist not telling the truth. I mean, telling the truth, not like lying. Um, you're gonna catch yourself in situations when even telling the truth, it's gonna feel kind of like not because you want something to like help yourself by not telling the truth, something that'll benefit you. But you feel like even if you tell the truth, that won't serve anything the other person on the other side. And that doesn't happen all the time. It's not very often, but still like if they're in the hole and you're not uplifting him by saying the truth, it's like burying him under. It's like putting the last nail in the coffin.
So one of
That's
my goals is to be ecological, and that is with self, with community, and with nature and the world.
right.
So that I
Wait,
wouldn't
what's
very
ecological mean? I don't know.
ecological, like
Oh,
ecology,
okay. Yep.
right? Right. And so I wouldn't, if what I am going to say is going to cause harm, I can't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't. But I can say, you know, there's a way to get out of this, and maybe tell them later when they're at a point where they can receive it. So not doing that was maybe the 18 to 25-year-old me. Like,
Yeah.
right? I'm from Boston, from the inner city, man. And
Yeah.
it usually had a whole bunch of swears with it too, right?
I'll tell you a story. When I did that for a while, I was dead
You
on
told me
for
you were like that a
like
lot
like
before,
like
huh?
like not lying. I went to a Sam's Club, and then you know you have those guys that come in and try to sell you stuff or whatever, and
Oh no.
And I like automatically I went in automatic mode and I pretended to be on my phone, even so I wasn't in the phone. And I feel bad because like I promised myself not to do that. So I turned around and I went to the guy and I said, I gotta tell you, I'm sorry I lied to you. I wasn't in the phone, but I gotta tell you this because I promised myself to do that. And then the guy looked at me like I'm some kind of crazy or something. Like he's
Yeah.
like, it's okay, sir. We have to do this for to get bonuses or whatever. We have to be that way with customers in something. And I was like, no, I didn't feel okay. You know what I mean? But this is if you try to do it and you really want to do it and you like watching yourself when you go like other programs that are coming. And just to circle back to the fear, it's kind of the same thing. If you're on the lookout for fear, anytime that comes out, you want to like see what's triggering it, why it's happening, how it's happening, and all that. So
Yeah.
with anything.
Yeah.
Well, yes, to get to the root cause, but there's a story that your body is trying to tell you,
True.
right? And you want to. I love to use the inner child. I use the inner child a lot when I'm working with someone. I did it actually with someone who things came up during the meeting yesterday, and just having a conversation with that inner child. What he experiences, what happens. That
Yep.
inner child told him
Yep.
the most brilliant thing. And he was like, whoa. I said, the most wisdom comes from the child
Mm-hmm.
because the child isn't programmed, right?
Well, you might even have people that have inner parents. They might have the two parents too. They might have the inner child voice. They might have the parent voice. They might have like mom or dad or somebody else. There depends on like how you upload and program.
Well, that's why, you know what? I have to tell you, and I was just on a radio show and I had this guy, Quasi, who is the producer of the show, ask me what my thoughts were about neurodiversity, which got me on a whole tangent. But let me go here, right? Real quick. We sit here and we're like, people are schizophrenic, people are this, that. I'm like, let's just call a spade a spade. We have 8 billion plus minds. We're all neurodiverse. We need to stop labeling people that crap. And right, we're so quick to label people, oh, you're ADHD, you're blood. First off, our bodies were never meant to be sedentary. We're supposed to be moving. So by definition, we're all ADHD because we shouldn't be sitting around and being conditioned, right? But to what you were saying, Yanko, I think again, when you look at the structure of how our subconscious has been programmed and conditioned in utero to 6 or 7, and that's without going into past lives or whatever other people have supposedly experienced, whatever, right? Um, we do have those voices, right? We certainly do, and
We have them all.
it's being able, and I think this is where Gail nailed it and said that it's being able to lean into the tools when we're going into that space of like, because for me the darkness is those voices. It is figuring out, okay, really, what's my spirit calling me to do, and where's all the mumbo jumbo that has been embedded into me that is trying to keep me from listening to my true self, right? And that's my understanding in this journey of growth and expansion that I'm moving through right now.
Right. And is it ego? Is it source? Is it my inner child? Like, who is talking to me?
Yeah.
One of the things that you brought up with the neurodiversity, because that's a word I want to throw in the trash as well. Our life, my life, has been built around division. We've been division and separation. Division and separation creates resistance. Resistance creates anger. Resistance creates war.
Shame, guilt.
Well, it's shame, guilt, and like, who are you? And so it's contempt. All of those things are created because of division, and we are the human race.
Yeah. Yep.
We are all different. and we say it, but we don't mean it.
We don't. It's so
Right?
true.
Right? Right? Oh, you're a snowflake. Right. But the second that you find out that I'm dyslexic or that I have ADHD, right? Okay, now I'm labeled. Even when I say the word coach, I'm put into a folder.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't do any of that stuff. That is not what I do.
It's
Right.
it's
So
true.
yeah, I love you.
But
Right. So how do we who are trying to change our perception to a broader and more loving and encompassing perspective, how do we spread that around the world?
yeah.
One mind at a time.
Well, yeah, and I think, again, when we talk about labels, look, if you're labeled something and it's supportive in that now you're going to take meaningful action that is going to help make you feel empowered to like take control. Like, for instance, right, as a business coach, I would have people stop every 45 minutes and do nothing related to business. Move, go outside, move their body, dance, blah blah blah. If you're gonna use that as a means to affect change and movement and energy and stuff positively, great. But sadly, we live in a culture where the minute I'm labeled, now something's wrong with me,
Right.
and I'm going to use that as the reason why I can no longer experience life a certain way. I can't tell you how many clients are so attached to their diagnosis, and I'm like,
They
you
identify.
yes.
Right. And that's the first thing I would not do when the diagnosis of cancer was presented to me.
Yeah.
I never said I have.
Yeah.
Never. It was someone in a lab did a test and this is what they came up with.
Yep.
By the way, it was wrong.
I know, you told me that. But that's the thing. And so that is where I love what you said. And I imagine you as a hypnotist has to like really help people break free from this too. Is like these labels, these belief systems, create the very thing that you brought up when with regards to shame, which is what? Feelings of unworthiness. I had a mental health episode which now creates shame. I'm unworthy, and so now I'm going to exist in this space of being mentally ill or have mental health issues, rather than recognize it was a moment in time where you didn't even know yourself. You're probably operating from some conditioned beliefs that didn't serve you, and so you're belling against that, and as a result now you're sitting here and suffering because you think something's wrong with you. I have such an aversion to that.
So let me share a story of what actually happened with my daughter, and I wasn't aware enough at the time to have stopped it. First grade, I have a meeting, parent teacher meeting, and her teacher finds out that I'm divorced. I wouldn't have guessed that your daughter came from a broken home. She seems so well adjusted. She put down in the record that Kerri comes from a broken home, and her life and her travels through school from then on was labeled, and she was put into special needs programs and all kinds of stuff. That what she was reading at 2.
Yeah.
Right. This child was brilliant, and she now, as an adult, can't take tests because she has a fear. She has a block because of that one teacher who labeled her, put that label in her record, and started treating her differently because of it.
Yep. Do you know, so my youngest daughter came to me a few years ago because the narrative around ADHD, and she's like, Mom, I just want to go get diagnosed. I know you're anti-medicine. I know all this, but I just need to get diagnosed. And I was like, hands down, absolutely not. So instead, what I did was I found a beautifully done documentary on Ritalin and Adderall being speed. And I forced my kids to watch it, and I said, I really want you to look at this. And more than that, you see these people in the beginning of this documentary speak so highly about needing this medication. At the end, they're telling you how much they have had to increase their dose, that they're struggling without it. And I said, the reality is, you know, you're not meant to sit in school for 6 hours. Like, that's the problem. And while I don't have the ability, like, you don't want homeschool, and I don't know that that's the greatest thing for you either, because we need social connection. But it's like, recognize that just because they're telling you this, it doesn't mean it's true. You're meant to move around. That doesn't make anything wrong with you. And since then, since she watched that documentary, she's not brought it up once.
So here's a little side tip. I don't know if it's true or not. This is what a friend of mine whose son was diagnosed with ADHD went on the meds, and she didn't like what it was doing to him, so she took him off the meds. She did some research. She gave him Coke every day. Problem solved.
Coca-Cola, like soda?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that little bit of a sugar rush from the soda,
Yep,
was all he needed to kind of balance him out.
but that's exactly,
Opposite of what you think.
and we're all different, and
Yes.
so that's why I try to tell people is there is. I just did an interview with this beautiful woman, love her, right? She created this 4-hour program to help get people fast results to overcome whatever it is, like, but I on camera I said, but you're not suggesting that people don't have to do the work after this, right? Because that's the issue I have when we say I have a quick fix 4-hour program, or I'm gonna send you into hypnosis. People want this quick fix, and I'm like, that is not reality. What's reality is the fact that Kerri turned 44, was feeling her feelings. It was hard, it felt yucky. She kept it real. It still is a little uncomfortable because I'm vulnerable, but by the process of connection, I moved through that. I'm not looking for a program that's going to wipe Kerri's emotions away from feeling yucky for turning 44, right? Yeah.
First of all, I agree with all that, but I have issue with the word program.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting programmed because somebody already put you in a box and said, this is what you need, and here's the program for you.
Right.
And now you're on this side.
Right.
Takes away your individuality and says, all right, you want the red pill or blue pill, or which program do you want? I have program for everything.
So and I'll take the cookie cutter, and I know that you don't fit in it. I'm going to make you fit in it.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So
I love that you said that, Yanko, and that's why you're my BFF, right? Because you don't sit here. Well, okay, so full transparency, I sent somebody to Yanko, and he was like, you're not ready to be hypnotized. Like, no way. You got to work on some of that stuff. And this person did. Like, trust me, like, but I love that, because not everybody would do that. They'd be like, oh, you want me to, sure. And it's not real. Like, it's a constant process of
there is like, I didn't know if she get back to you or not, and I'm glad you like referred to me and anything, but like, I can in clear consciousness put somebody that's in distress in this kind of situation, like, if you're stuck in your root stuff, like surviving, like, food, shelter, like, you got to get your needs met before you start fixing everything.
Yeah.
You can't go on thinking about anything or doing anything else when you're in distress. Like, if you're in the situation when the tiger can come in, jump in, eat you in any moment, like, nothing's going to happen. In a always say that to people where they say, well, look at this, like, we were trying to help these people and maybe teach them about art and stuff, and I'm like, those people were hungry, they want to eat, and you're going to tell them, look at this Picasso or something, and talk to them about art and other stuff? I'm like, no, they got to get the A and B's done before you can go do anything else.
Yeah.
So
But
Yeah.
you also don't sell them on the belief that, okay, you can get
Oh no.
hypnotized and then
No.
you're gonna
No, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not a quick fix. No.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
No.
And
Yeah.
I was talking to a coach who hired somebody with a 4-hour program. And the first time I spoke with her after she got it done, she's happy. A month later, guess what? She's in the same situation. I'm like, you like we have to consistently take action. And something you said that I love, Gail, because you remind me of it comes to discipline. And I hated discipline, but when we're in the yucky, you got to just do something. When you said you felt overwhelmed, you didn't say, I'm going to stop. You're like, no, just do one thing. What's one thing? And, for me, when I'm in that overwhelm, it's go for a walk. Just walk. I don't want to walk, but I'm going to walk, and then I can break free from that overwhelm. But that is discipline, and that's action though. That's an actionable item that you can take to start to move out of where you're at. But you have to do that every day.
You have to every day. And that, like the training that I did yesterday, you know, at the end of the training, I have a process where you can continue, you can extend, but I also call it homework. People don't do homework, but at the end, they develop their own empowering question, because we've gone through the process of clearing and getting focus. And if you want that to work, because it works, then you have to use a process called 369. Write it down 3 times in the morning, write it again 6 times at noon, and so 3 6, and write it 9 times at night. So I spoke to one of them, and he goes today, and he's like, I'm doing this, Gail, because I know it's going to work, but I made a really long one, and I was getting angry at how much I had to write. So I took a look at it, and I just shortened it. Yeah. So that I would not stop doing the process.
So for clarification's sake for the community, anybody who's curious, so what is it they're actually writing 3, 6, and 9 times? Like I just need clarity around that.
So it's called an empowering question, and it's more right. It's more powerful than an affirmation. Gotcha. It's more powerful than a declaration. It creates a process that opens up your consciousness. So your mind, it's like, what more can I do? And so right now your mind goes, okay, so you're doing this. Okay, so what more can we do? Right. So it's structured in a way with action and, and anchored in reality.
Yep.
For what it is that you want. And, I've had major success.
Yeah.
Using empowering questions.
Of course you will. I know how that works out with the mind.
Yes.
I know. I know why it works.
Right, exactly. So do I. And I explain that, right? And so, of course, these people who are coaches understand that what I'm telling them is truth, and they know it's going to work. And so they're going to do the work.
Yep.
Because they know it will work. And if they don't, and this is why, if you work with me, if you do the work, you'll have success. If you don't do the work, you won't. So I don't promise success, because it's not up to me. It's up to you.
That's all three of us.
Right.
And Yanko and I have talked extensively about the fact that, I used to attach an outcome to the work I did with people, and I don't anymore. I know that I show up, that I am showing up in service and intuitively guided. And again, I think all three of us channel whatever it is. Like I know I'm in my zone, and it's not me. Like it is spirit coming through me when I'm working, but it's not for me to judge how that lands with the other person, because I don't know. Sometimes it's just planting seeds. Sometimes they're going to take it and run with it. Sometimes it's something in the middle, and it's just showing up and being love and in service. That is, what I'm meant to do for the person, right? So with 5 minutes left, because I have a client at 3. So Gail,
thank you for inviting me. What fun.
Hey, you're welcome anytime.
For no particular reason. You should be.
I know.
Hey, if you're free every Friday at 2, you're welcome to be co-host with me.
If I'm around, I'll pop in and I'll say, hey guys, and you send me the link.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And stick around after we disconnect. Even so, we go blind. We do a recap real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
So with that, anybody have any parting words you want to leave the community?
Feel the feels. Yep.
That was my newsletter this week. I
I
love it.
love it. I love it.
What about
Uh,
you, Yanko?
I would say just remember that you're part of the whole. You're not separate being.
And I would say we heal in connection, and even this conversation has made me feel lighter than I did coming into it. So I really encourage people, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, whether it's a stranger on the street, if you're feeling heavy, to share. Even if it's just, ugh, I feel yucky right now, somebody else can offer you something that can pull you out of that yuck.
Just
So
make it a bitch session.
yeah. All right, guys, until next week, it is such a gift, honor, and privilege to have this time to hopefully impart our life lessons onto you that you can take something away. Please reach out if you have any questions, concerns, you disagree with anything, or want support from any one of us three. We're happy to have a good conversation with you, if nothing else. And until next time, this is Kerri Lewis, Yanko Yankov, and Gail Kraft
And
signing
for
off.
no particular reason.
There you go. Bye bye.